Welcome to the Big Picture Prime. I'm Phil Arno. Last week I interviewed Carl Palladino on the Big Picture Prime. Carl is running in the August 23rd Republican primary to be the representative for the 23rd Congressional District here in New York. On this Big Picture Prime, we get to talk to Nick Langworthy, who has been the head of the Republican Party in Erie County and is currently the head of the party in New York State. Nick is changing gears and is now running as a candidate against Carl Palladino in that August 23rd primary. The winner will be the Republican candidate for the seat in the November general election. So it's my pleasure to welcome to this Big Picture Prime, Nick Langworthy. So welcome now to the show. The first question, which is probably the most obvious question, your role has been behind the scenes for the longest time. I mean, that's what you do. You're, an organizer behind the scenes. You help out the Republican Party and kind of make decisions. Now you're a candidate, and why should people think of you as like an open-minded, independent candidate when you spent so much time as the head of the party?
Well, I'm running for Congress after a lifetime of service to the community and to the political causes that I believe in. I currently serve as state chairman of the New York Republican Party. Before that, I was 10 years the chairman of the Erie County Republican Party. But those that have known me a long time know that I started my career as a young volunteer for congressional candidates, and then out of college I started in the office of Congressman Tom Reynolds and spent 7 years as a congressional aide. I did that and I learned an awful lot about constituent service. And I think that what drives me to run for this seat is I've seen a revolving door on this congressional seat for far too long, both the Southern Tier seat as well as the seat that Congressman Jacobs is vacating. And the House of Representatives is something that is seniority based. Since Congressman Reynolds left in 2008, we've had people that came in with great promise, but they've left far too soon under unfortunate circumstances, almost every single one of them. And that has cost our region a voice that has gained stature, gained influence, gained an ability to keep Western New York at the forefront that it deserves. Republicans are going to take the House of Representatives this year. And I believe that because of the relationships that I have built throughout Western New York, throughout the state of New York, and throughout the country as a member of the RNC, that I can be impactful on day one in the House of Representatives. I'm someone that's a vetted commodity. I'm someone that has been out there working very hard and advocating for the issues that are important to Western New Yorkers. There's nothing that's going to sideline me where I'm going to be censured or stripped of my committees or embarrass this community. We need to put this community at the forefront again. It's been forgotten for too long.
The interview that I did with Carl, I asked him about how in campaigns and beyond, if he were actually a congressman, the media and other politicians tend to attack people personally. Mm-hmm. They don't so much go for policy like President Trump. Yeah, I haven't heard many people criticize his policies. They always call him mean, or they vilify him as a character. And I'm sure that to a great extent is what would happen with Carl, as happened when he was running for governor. They attack his character or the people who are around him. Is that what we've deteriorated into, that issues take a back seat to everything?
Well, I think that the way that media covers our politics and our government has created, it's almost like watching ESPN or how they cover professional wrestling. There's got to be a winner and loser every single day, and it gets more eyeballs on the screen to have people fighting amongst themselves on personal level rather than it is a great policy debate. Otherwise, C-SPAN would have the highest ratings. But I really think that it goes to the point of, we need to send someone to Washington that doesn't just want to make noise or be a celebrity on Fox News and say an outlandish thing to get a lot of people to click on something on the internet. We need a serious legislator. This area is facing serious challenges. And if we have someone whose voice gets silenced because they end up mired in scandal, they're not going to be effective for Western New York. And that's what's really important here and what we have to ask ourselves in this district. And that's what I pledge to do, work hard every single day to represent every citizen of this district of any party affiliation. Because there's a lot of problems that local government face. They're not Democrat or Republican problems. They need assistance. They need help. And you know, from the time Chris Collins left, we were without a voice for a year and a half. I mean, the district was in total limbo. We can't afford to have that happen again. And it won't happen if I'm elected your congressman.
People now are starting to get a little jaded, maybe not even starting, but they're a little jaded about politics, government, what they can do. You know, a lot of people don't vote because they say, what's the use, especially here in New York State. But lately, probably the last generation or so, it seems, and I hear this all the time, there's no difference between the parties. They both spend and spend and spend and spend. And there's examples. I mean, I just, read about an airport in a harbor that was built for $105 million in Alaska, and the community has 75 residents. And there's no roads that connect that island. It's on an island. There's no roads that connect to the harbor or the airport. That seems like a huge waste of money. And you can find that throughout all of government. Every day you can say, why are they spending money on this? Why are they spending money on that? The budget deficit in 2021 was $2 trillion. It was, even on outside COVID, the deficit fluctuates between $450 and $800 million a year. What can be done, and you as a congressman, if you go to Washington, what can be done to kind of put the brakes on stuff like this?
The government has to go, into a period of austerity. I mean, we have to cut back. I mean, we will spend ourselves into oblivion. Our grandchildren's grandchildren can't pay the bills that we put forward during COVID alone. I mean, the spending has got to stop. We have taken the next generation of Americans and we've taught them there's such a thing as a free lunch and that you can live off of government money. And that's why it's so hard for all of our small businesses right now to find employees and people willing to work. I mean, the inflation that is crippling this country right now, it's dangerous. Every trip to the grocery store is a major economic discussion for families. On top of it, you have a supply chain crisis because people can't get the supplies because they can't get the workers to make the supplies. I mean, these are the sorts of things that the consequences that come with reckless spending. And unfortunately for us, there was a very narrow, majority by the Democrats after this last election. Otherwise, I think the spending would be even more drastic. Luckily, this, most of the Build Back Better agenda that Biden put forward was railroaded and stopped because they wanted to spend trillions of dollars that we just don't have and set framework that you couldn't short circuit later on. Every time you create an entitlement, you're not going to get rid of it. I mean, you've seen the complications with Obamacare and trying to unravel that after all these years, even though, by most accounts, almost all the legislation's a disaster. And health care has skyrocketed in terms of its costs on the American people. We have to get serious about spending. We have to, again, not be, tricked into thinking $1 trillion isn't a lot of money. It's more money than any of us can honestly fathom. But we seem to have blown through the label of billions and gone straight to trillions in terms of major legislation pieces. It's got to stop. $1
trillion here, $1 trillion there. Sooner or later, you're talking real money, right?
That's how empires collapse.
Yeah.
And we cannot, the weight, as we're barreling towards, a real recession, as interest rates continue to climb, interest rates climb on that debt that this government has assembled.
Let me ask you this. We have Democrats controlling the House and the Senate and the White House right now. And it's been the last year and a half or more. And arguably, with inflation, with the border being totally open, with drugs flowing in, supply chain shortages, all the bad things that we hear every day. Is that a reflection on the Democrats' policies because they are in control the last year and a half, or is it much more complicated than that?
I think it's a direct reflection on the leadership on who's in the White House. I mean, the border you mentioned, We have no idea who's coming in and out of this country. We have no idea where Joe Biden is flying the people that are coming in and out of this country. This is not just a Mexican-American, problem. This is, we have evidence that ISIS uses the southern border to enter our country. I mean, radical extremists from all over the globe could be coming in here. We have no idea. The trafficking of fentanyl that comes from China into Mexico and then up into our borders, and it's killing our kids all over this country. These are things that are happening because Joe Biden wants to kowtow to the radical left, and they just want to let anyone in this country that wants to come. We have no idea where they're coming from or what their intentions are. That's got to stop. We have to get serious about border security. We have to finish President Trump's wall. And if we don't have borders, we don't have a country. I totally believe in President Trump's agenda on the border, and in the fact that the Congress stonewalled him the way they did and didn't take that more seriously, I think is very offensive. But really, one of the great things that I look forward to fighting for is to return us to American energy independence. And day one of the administration, Joe Biden sent a loud and clear message. We're closed for business to the energy sector. We are shutting down the Keystone Pipeline. And all in the name of the radical left and in the Green New Deal agenda, we are going to shut down American exploration. We're going to shut down Canadian oil coming into the United States. We need to not depend on Russia. We need to not depend on OPEC and countries that want to harm the United States of America. The fact that our president essentially kneeled before the Saudis and begged for more oil, that is a slap in the face to every American, because we have oil right here in this country and the president won't let it out of the ground. He is an absolute liar on this topic, and we have in New York State the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. We could alleviate home heating costs for New Yorkers, for people throughout the region. We can create a massive amount of $50,000 a year and up jobs in some of the poorest territory that happens to be in this congressional district. I will fight every day as a member of Congress to use whatever lever of power that my office can touch to get us to a point where we can change Albany's direction on fracking. I know our soon-to-be Governor Lee Zeldin, someone that's out there campaigning across the state, he's running on this platform. We need to get safe energy exploration, and we need it now, right here in Western New York.
Not to mention the fact that natural gas is one of the cleanest fossil fuels that they still want to get rid of, but it's cleaner than coal or just about anything else you can imagine. And that's one of the reasons the U.S. has improved on its carbon emissions more than any other nation in the country over the last 10 or 15 years because of natural gas and our production. Okay, we're out of time on this segment. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to The Big Picture. My guest is Nick Langworthy, who is running for Congress in the 23rd District in a special primary coming up on August 23rd. We just talked about the Green New Deal and energy limitations on natural gas, gasoline going to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela. One of the things that occurs to me, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are thinking the same thing, going to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela instead of going to Texas for oil seems so disingenuous. If they were really concerned about this country, we have cleaner energy than either of those two countries. The people who say that they're interested in saving the climate, if they were genuinely interested in a clean source of energy, you'd think that they'd be talking about nuclear power. It just doesn't follow, doesn't make sense.
There's complete inconsistencies in all of their arguments, whether you look at what New York State's doing, trying to shut off natural gas to any buildings constructed in New York City. You know, they have made people spend a fortune with this Green New Deal agenda. You know, the idea that we're going to have a successful program with all electric school buses in New York within 10 years. I mean, I can't wait to see.
Where's that electric going to come from?
They think it comes from unicorns and rainbows. I mean, Democrats are completely disingenuous with this agenda. But you have Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, suggesting Americans can get through the increase in these gas prices simply by buying an electric car. I can't get a gas-powered car right now because of issues with the supply chain. But regular Americans, I'm sorry to break it to Secretary Buttigieg or his boss Joe Biden, they can't afford a $65,000 Tesla, and nor could they probably find one on a lot. And it is not a realistic alternative for people that are just worried about how to pay to get to work. These people are out of touch, and it just shows you how far to the left the Democratic Party has gotten in this country, and we need to return to common sense. We need to break up one-party Democratic control. We need to take back the House, and we're going to get that done this year.
Well, you know, that's been the history of New York State for a long time, you know, the one-party control. And we lose more people per year to go to other states, you know, as a result. I mean, than just about any other state. We have the highest taxes, the most unfriendly government towards business, and the regulatory system is just out of control in New York State. The no-bail laws. That is a result of government getting into every aspect of your life. And government is not efficient, and government is certainly not the wisest thing in the world when it comes to making decisions. You know, our country was founded on individual responsibility, not on being taken care of. But that brings a point. All the spending, all the programs, people get used to the handouts, and it's extremely tough to cut that back once the population is used to it. How do you address that? How can you make any headway? We
absolutely have to shut down, you know, basically freebies that the government's handing out. You incentivize people not to work. Listen, the height of the pandemic, we didn't know what we didn't know. And we were in really an unprecedented time. You know, this virus came on us very fast. A lot of mistakes were made. You know, we had some programs that were helpful to get people through it, but it was a short window, not a long window. The fact that we're still talking about, you know, programs to incentivize people to A, not work, or B, not do the businesses that they used to do in the name of COVID. I mean, I believe in the message of Congressman Lee Zeldin, who's going to be our next governor. Day one of his administration, all these COVID mandates end. We have to put this in the rearview mirror. There's a threat, just like there's a threat every flu season. You have to be vigilant. You have to, be worried about your own health and take precautions in your own way. But the government is not going to, take care of you cradle to grave. And that's the problem. That's the difference between these two parties right now. They want cradle to grave dependency on government, and we want self-reliance and self-determination and the values that our country was founded on. And that's what I'll fight for in Congress. That's what I think the Republican Party in this state is fighting for in change in Albany this year, and why we have to send Kathy Hochul packing.
Now, I've said this to each of the candidates that I've interviewed, and I will bring it up with you as well. And the way the system works in government is you can have the best of intentions when you are running and you want to do great things for the people you're serving. Once you get elected and you get in there, you're in Washington or you're in Albany, wherever, the party comes to you and says, or the people who are in charge come to you and says, this is what we're saying, this is where we're voting, do what we tell you to do, basically. Follow the party line. And that's the way it's structured, and it's tough to be independently minded when you're in a system like that, because the party is all powerful, and if you go against what the party programs are, what the party positions are, then they can sit you in the corner and make sure that you really disappear. How would you deal with that as an independent congressperson?
Well, I mean, frankly, I'll work with anyone to further the interests of Western New York. I'm not running to just be a person that represents Republicans in Congress. I'll represent all the taxpayers in this congressional district in the 7 counties and be a loud and proud voice for Western New York, which I think has been missing for far too long. I'm someone that's been able to work, and build consensus within our own party and otherwise. I mean, there are a lot of problems that aren't Democrat or Republican problems. They're service problems, and we need, to either cut through the red tape. I think back to my congressional service in, working with municipalities when they'd have a crisis or a natural disaster, and going and getting government to help out in when people are suffering or have great needs. I mean, I understand the rules of engagement in the House of Representatives. I'm not sure that all my opponents do. They think that you just get to go and shoot your mouth off and then that's going to change something other than they're going to get your mic shut off and they are going to put them in the penalty box. I can go out there and get things done. I can build relationships. I've done that. I will continue to do that, and I'll fight hard for Western New York every single day.
Well, if things develop that the party wants to go in one direction and the people of the 23rd District, which is a rural district, won't benefit from that or might even be harmed by a party policy, how would you reconcile those decisions?
I'll always fight for the district first. I mean, the people that sent you to Washington, you can't forget about. And that's what's happened too much in Congress is we have sent people that have lost track of what they're there for. I mean, we have people that think they're performance artists and want to go on cable news and say things and so that people, click on their website and give them $25 and be more outlandish than the next. And that's what's made a 3-ring circus of our Congress, and we can't afford to let our actions here in Western New York make a bigger mockery of the institution. We need to have someone that's willing to be a serious legislator. People know where I stand on issues because of what I fought for across my entire career. I believe I fight for common sense. Restoring 2-party government in New York State. Breaking down, the stranglehold that downstate interests have on our fortunes here in Western New York, rooting out corruption in our government and exposing people. I've taken on the biggest bullies in the Democratic Party, Andrew Cuomo, every day of the week, and twice on Sunday I took him on, and he was at one time he had 75% approval ratings, and we were still trying to expose what we felt were the crimes, the bully tactics, and absolutely the wrong-headed policies that he was pushing forward. And we knew what he was, and we're trying to expose that before the rest of the public did. I would use this office to go and try to fight for people, fight for the little guy, because that's where I come from. I'm a son of the Southern Tier. My family lives in Jamestown, New York. I'm the son of a small businessman of 43 years. I know a lot of people that are struggling. I understand the plight of having to say goodbye to family members and friends because they left New York for other opportunities. And our government has done us no favors. Our government has expedited that process. I mean, there's no one sitting down in North Carolina right now saying, I'm at my wit's end, I have to move to New York. But there's a hell of a lot of people here that are saying that about Florida, Tennessee, Texas, or the Carolinas. And that's got to stop.
Well, we talked a little bit during the break about, the way the system works and seniority, getting things done. Congressman Higgins, I think, is an example of some of what we've been talking about. I think if you look at his record, he's probably one of the most loyal Democrats to Nancy Pelosi in terms of voting for whatever she wants and the party. When you get a certain amount of seniority, you can get projects and things for your district, and we talked about the airport and the harbor serving 75 people. But what about term limits? Is it a good thing or a bad thing for people to be serving for 30 or 40 years in Congress?
Well, you talk about that project in Alaska, and he's now the late Congressman Don Young. He had been a member of Congress since Alaska became a state. That's why he was so powerful and was, a senior appropriator and was able to get that ultra expensive airport in a place that serviced almost no one. I would support amending the Constitution and bringing term limits. You know, it's going to take 50 states to participate in that. I've supported term limits in Albany, term limits for statewide offices. I would support term limits in the House of Representatives. I mean, there's a lot of powerful people that are against that, but I would absolutely support it.
Well, it's kind of a two, position argument. Experience breeds better ability to handle problems, but on the other hand, that also kind of corrupts, the direction you go in.
If you can't get something done for your district in 10 or 12 years, you should let someone else have a shot.
Okay. Well, all right. That's all the time we have for this big picture. The people that are watching now, you viewers, you always ask what difference can I make? What difference, does anybody make because government is so powerful? Votes do have consequences, and that's what we can do. We can vote, whether or not we think that it counts or it's not going to count, one of so many, that's what we can do. And everybody should have the most information that they can possibly get on all their candidates, on the issues. That's what we're here for. Thank you so much for watching The Big Picture. That's all the time we have. Thanks for watching WBBZ. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on The Big Picture.